Imagine stepping outside on a clear night, looking up, and instead of a blank sky or a smattering of stars, you see colossal, shimmering rings stretching from horizon to horizon, an awe-inspiring arc of cosmic beauty reflecting sunlight and casting vast shadows over the Earth. These wouldn't be tiny slivers in the sky either. They'd dominate the view, possibly more breathtaking than any natural wonder we've ever known. But what if Earth actually had rings like Saturn? What would it look like? How would our world change geographically, culturally, and even biologically? This is not just a question of aesthetics. Ring systems have powerful implications on planetary environments, and if Earth had such a feature, our history and civilization might have unfolded in a radically different way. To begin, let's consider what Saturn's rings really are. They're primarily made of billions of particles, mostly ice and rock, ranging in size from grains of sand to mountains. If Earth had a similar ring system, they'd most likely orbit within the Roche limit, the minimum distance where tidal forces from Earth would prevent the material from clumping together into a moon. For Earth, that's about 18,000 kilometers above the surface. The rings would likely lie in the equatorial plane, meaning their appearance would vary drastically depending on where you are on the planet. Near the equator, they'd be seen edge-on, thin and possibly barely visible, while from higher latitudes, the rings would spread out into a brilliant, multicolored arch that would paint the sky day and night. Cities like New York, London, or Moscow would see the rings in magnificent glory, whereas people in equatorial regions might only see a sliver. One of the most profound effects would be on the planet's climate and weather systems. Rings would reflect sunlight, especially if they contained ice, possibly cooling parts of the Earth. This albedo effect, where light is bounced back into space, might lower temperatures in some regions. Some parts of the Earth might even be cast into prolonged shadows depending on the ring's thickness and position, creating semi-permanent twilight zones. This could disrupt plant growth cycles, alter wind and pressure systems, and perhaps even create strange microclimates. Agriculture would have to adapt, and ancient civilizations might have developed in entirely different areas as a result. In fact, early human migration and settlement could have been influenced more by ring light than by sunlight, changing the whole trajectory of human history. And speaking of civilizations, imagine how Earth's rings would have shaped ancient cultures, mythology, and religion. Just as the moon and stars inspired legends, gods, and calendars, massive glowing rings would have been unavoidable symbols in early human storytelling. Entire belief systems might have been built around them. The rings might have been seen as celestial paths, divine halos, or sacred barriers. From the construction of ancient monuments aligned with their arcs to prophecies about the rings changing color or disappearing, the impact on our spiritual and philosophical development would be immense. Even our scientific advancement might have been accelerated or altered. Early astronomers would be drawn to study these structures, possibly driving progress in optics, physics, and celestial mechanics far earlier in history. Now consider the effect on space exploration and satellite technology. A dense ring system would pose a serious hazard for satellites, space stations, and future missions. We'd need to carefully navigate spacecraft through or around these particles to avoid catastrophic collisions. Low Earth orbit might be crowded or even inaccessible in certain regions. GPS satellites, communication relays, and weather monitoring equipment would need to be redesigned to avoid the debris fields. That would change the architecture of modern technology, possibly delaying or redirecting our development of global positioning and satellite internet. Ironically, the rings that would inspire wonder and fascination from Earth might become a barrier for reaching beyond it. Then there's the question of how Earth could have gotten rings in the first place. For Earth to have Saturn-like rings, it's likely that a massive collision in the distant past would have needed to occur, perhaps an asteroid slamming into a former moon, shattering it into countless pieces. Or maybe a captured body from the asteroid belt ventured too close and was torn apart by Earth's gravity. Such a dramatic event would leave its mark on the geologic record, perhaps through irregular craters, global seismic shifts, or even mass extinctions. Some scientists speculate that early Earth might have had temporary rings formed after colossal impacts, but they dissipated over time due to gravitational interactions with the moon or Earth's atmosphere. So in a way, this what-if scenario isn't completely fantasy. It's something that might have happened or might still happen in a very distant future. Socially and culturally, the rings could change human psychology. The night sky would never be truly dark. Ring light would bathe the world in eerie luminescence. Artists, poets and dreamers would forever draw from them, embedding the rings into art, music and literature. Tourism and architecture would center around the best views of the rings, and perhaps people would migrate seasonally just to witness celestial events like ring eclipses or solar projections through the ring gaps, creating dazzling light patterns on the ground. Cities like Paris, Tokyo or Buenos Aires might be known not just for their culture, but for their unique views of the sky. The rings would become a backdrop to our lives, an ever-present reminder of Earth's place in the cosmos. In the end, if Earth had rings like Saturn, life as we know it would be more than just different. It would be more reflective, more mythic, and perhaps more united under a common sky that constantly reminds us of the universe beyond. From environmental shifts to cultural revolutions, Earth's rings wouldn't just orbit silently above us. They would shape everything from our climate to our consciousness. The sky would no longer be just a place for stars. It would be a stage for a cosmic performance that never ends.